Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 10 of my chronic migraine life. So, I wanted to update you on what's been going on with my eyes. But before we go down that road, I've decided that while we're going to have a rather serious talk, I want to bookend it with two very happy things. The first being I just got home from Botox. Can't really tell in this camera and this lighting, but my forehead was bleeding pretty bad earlier. And in light of what I had to go through to get the Botox, I am very grateful that my neurologist deemed me medically necessary and that was willing to do it, though she was in full hazmat suit and I had to get my temperature taken outside the office and wasn't allowed to be in the waiting area and all the crazy rules and restrictions that we have going on. Despite that, I got the Botox and my head really, really needed it after this week of weather and trauma, and I couldn't be more grateful for her health and the fact that I got my Botox. So that's one. Okay, so the story I'm going to tell is an unexpected story for me. About a week and a half ago, I started seeing what I now will refer to as floaters in my right eye, and I've learned that they're called curtain floaters, meaning that they're not just dots or like cobwebs, that to me it sort of looked like an eyelash, like the wave of an eyelash. I thought initially something was in my eye, but there wasn't. Meaning that it looked like it would go from the top down and then keep repeating over and over and over again, sort of like it was on a loop. And that went on for about a while. I noticed that it was really like early in the, like when I had first woken up that I noticed it most. And then throughout the day, it sort of subsided a bit. Same thing for the next day. So that was a Thursday and a Friday over a week ago. It bothered me. And because I've had eye surgery almost, I guess, 9 weeks ago on my first eye, the right eye, and March 10th on my second eye, so I'm hyper aware of my eyes. Anytime I feel like I can't read or I can't concentrate, anything, now I'm extra hyper vigilant about my eyes. Last week I was originally supposed to go, actually the week that this started, I was supposed to go for my third week post-op on my left eye. And they of course canceled it because of the pandemic. They were only seeing emergency patients. And while I was happy not to be an emergency patient, I wanted to be sure that my eyes were fine. It's something about having the surgery and, knowing that I was supposed to go for a 3-week checkup and not being able to get it gave me a great deal of anxiety. But I was trying to just go with the flow and leave it. Well, won't you know it, the same day that I was supposed to go for that post-op is when this curtain floater appeared. So I saw that for about 2 days. That was a Thursday and a Friday. And then it went away. I still, to this day, see like a very, very faint black dot on the right peripheral of my right eye floater, but like it looks like something's on the lens. And so that's where my mind immediately goes, that maybe the lens that they put in to replace my natural lens that had cataract on it, something's on it or it moved, right? The things that we do to ourselves. I let it go. It goes away, comes and goes, and I sort of just ignore it. Last week, Tuesday night, it was really Wednesday morning. I was in bed at about 3 a.m., which is typical for me. I was watching TV with the lights off in my bedroom. And I noticed what I now will refer to as a flash of light. It was coming from sort of the back right side of my right eye, and it was like shooting out, it looked like forward. At first, I thought it was like something at the TV or the reflection, and then I realized that it was coming from my eye. And so it didn't happen very often, maybe every 20 minutes or so, but it lasted about an hour and a half. At that point, my anxiety had risen so far high, I thought I was going to throw up in my mouth. I almost woke up my mother, but I thought that I was just being like dramatic. And from my past experience with my head, I know that sometimes I hallucinate, but I haven't done that in a very, very long time. Either way, it stopped and I fall asleep. But when I wake up Wednesday morning, actually late afternoon, it's still bothering me. So I decide to call my doctor's office again. Now, I had been calling my surgeon's office from the previous Thursday and Friday when just a floater appeared. I am on high alert, and I want everybody else to be on high alert. Now, this has nothing to do with the pandemic, but the surgeon's office has terrible way of communicating. There's a call center, and then they first transfer that to the receptionist, the doctor, or whatever it is, and it's just not an efficient way of communicating. I tried emailing, I tried ringing all the bells and whistles. Finally, somebody calls me back Wednesday afternoon, and it's one of the residents, not the one that did my surgery, but one I really like. And he says, Donna, what's going on? So I explained the entire scenario the entire week. But I'm not in pain, my vision hasn't changed, all that kind of stuff. So he says to me, and I take a great big breath whenever I think about his words. And his words to me were, it sounds like the beginning of your retina detaching. Now, because your vision hasn't changed overall and you're not in pain, there's no way to panic. But apparently, a side effect of cataract surgery is the detaching of a retina in your eye, which I never knew about. I'm going to pause here because a couple of days ago, in the interim of this process, I was going through old paperwork, and I found cataract brochures that the first doctor I ever went to gave me. Now, he was a douche, so I never went back, because if you recall that video, he told me to Google it for any questions I had. He didn't want to answer them. At the time that he gave me the brochures, I couldn't read the brochures because I had cataracts that severely. But now I was able to read them, and I'm very grateful that I didn't read them ahead of time or was able to, even though I asked plenty of questions and I felt like I got really worst case scenarios presented to me by my new doctors. It says very plainly that retina detaching is one of the side effects. It also explains that you can develop a film on your new artificial lens and that they might have to go in to do a laser to correct that blurry vision. That part I knew, but the retina stuff I didn't know. Anyway, so I'm on the phone with the doctor, and he says to me, what it sounds like is that you have this gel, very gross, I know, around the nerves near your retina and this other nerve that I can never remember the pronunciation. It's a very long name. And it tends to break apart and dislodge, if you will, or wear away with age. But cataract surgery and eye surgery in general can also bring apart that change. It sounds like that's what's happening to you. But because I can't be sure, and because it's not like we could do a video call and I could show you my hand or something and say, does this look infected or whatever, at your eyes, I think you should come in. I think it warrants an emergency. You qualify to come into the office. Can you come here tomorrow? And I say date, time, place, whenever you need to. So we make an appointment for the following day. And I'm going to paraphrase my cousin Deanna, who has always said, anytime I talk about eyes, I hate the eyes, I hate the eyes. And I have to agree with you, Deanna, now. I hate my eyes, too. I go to the doctor's office, and the anxiety is just higher and higher. But my mom took a ride with me, but of course she's not allowed in the office. The building is sort of strange that I go to, so like you enter through a main entrance, but there's like elevators to go up the floor, and the Eye Institute is to the right through another barricade of doors. So they take my temperature when I first walk in. I'm wearing a mask and gloves, and then they take it again when I get through that barricade, and my temperature is fine. Now this office is normally packed to the brim. Besides the people that worked there, I saw one patient leaving as I arrived and one patient coming as I was leaving. So this was fantastic. They do a vision test. They do, that test, I guess it's for your field vision. I don't really know what it's for. Like you see the little balloon. Well, I never used to see the little balloon when they did my test. And I was able to see those colors very clearly. They do that test. They do the pressure. All of that seems good and fine. The doctor comes in to dilate my eyes. I haven't had my eyes dilated to this extent since before surgery and they were doing testing. So I go back out in the waiting room by myself just to hang out there and wait, about 30 minutes for it to take. And the first thing that I notice, another positive, is that while my eyes are definitely dilating, I can actually still see. On about, I guess that was the end of December when I had my eyes this dilated prior. Because of the cataracts and the dilation, I couldn't even see my phone. I couldn't see, people in front of me. It was horrific. At this time, even though my eyes were very clearly dilated, I could read. I also noticed that this was the first time I was back since my second surgery, so 4 weeks at this point. I could read signs. I could read the TV. I could read all the things that I hadn't seen this entire time I've been going back and forth. And sort of alarming because the signs, whatever it is, like we're not responsible for your personal property, all kinds of things like that. The letters and the font is pretty big and dark. And so it's disturbing that I couldn't see all that, but I couldn't see all that. So I was still trying to revel and be excited and calm. The doctor calls me back in, and, you put your face through that machine or whatever, and they look, doing all these tests. He's looking, he looks in both eyes. So at least I was getting my post-op visit in too. And he puts something in front of that machine to look into my eyes extra close, and we do all this, I don't know, it goes on for like 5-10 minutes. After that, he does a retina exam. And now I've had a lot of invasive procedures done to me in my life, and I've got to tell you, this was by far the worst. Now, keep in mind that I was due for Botox already this week, and had been feeling it already from last week. Eyes aside, the weather has been horrific in New York City. It is raining, pouring, hurricane, cats and dogs, that I would have never gone out in this weather except for Botox. You could probably hear the wind if you listen super close. It was raining that day too, but not as bad as today. And so my head has been aggravated. I mean, I haven't had Botox since January, which was normal, 3 months. But between the surgeries and the stress, I feel like I wore out my Botox extra. I don't know if it's a thing or not. But anywho's, my head was not a fan of mine. And she was going to really, really hate my guts after this. They put a light so close into your eye, like you literally can't even see. Like the doctor's instructing me, look left, look right, look up, right. I don't even know if my eye was moving. I had to ask him. He also, he says squish. It wasn't really a squish, but pressed on my eye as he had this god-awful light examining me. And this went on for like 15 minutes, or it felt like an hour and a half. It hurt. It was the light, my head was, the lambs were screaming. It was beyond painful, even though it didn't involve any kind of tools. It was worse than the surgery, because the surgery they drug you for. And now, even though that second surgery I felt some burning because they didn't drug me properly enough, this was worse. I would rather have, as a woman, an internal exam of any kind than this thing again. That's saying something. Anyway, he does the tests and he sits back in his chair, and now I try to let him speak without cutting him off with all my questions and the anxiety and the vomiting. The longer he looked in my eye, the more I was positive something was really wrong with it because, why not? The good news is, more good news, see, is that my retina is not detached in any way. It's not even starting to. And that is good news, because while retinas that have been detached, you can have surgery for it to correct, it is a horrific surgery from what I hear. And I didn't purposely look it up or ask about it, and that's not like me, because I don't even want to know. I don't want to speak it to the universe. I don't want it to come near me in any way. You have to lay on your stomach for weeks and months. It's just painful. It's awful. It's not happening. It is not happening. Hear me loud and clear. Speak that into the universe. He suspects, because he doesn't see anything. Apparently, you could also look for the floater, and that's what he was looking for. I didn't know you could, the doctor could see, it was on the outside somehow. And he can't find it. He thinks that he was right initially, that it was just that gel dispersing, and maybe I just got a big burst of it. But he says, because it happened to my first eye, now there was about almost 5 weeks between eye surgery. So because this eye that it's happening to, my right, is advanced, so to speak, on the schedule, means that it's likely that it could happen in my left. But what he tells me is this, that these little, I don't never see the curtain floater dot ever again. That floater I don't have anymore. It's just this little black dot. She has faded over time. Yes, I gave her a female pronoun. But it moves around a lot, and it's annoying, but not so super annoying because it's on the side of my eye. He says that eventually the brain can actually absorb it. It gets used to seeing that and will process it, that it's not a threat, and make it go away. Now, at this time, my head was already depleted in Botox. The stress of hearing any of this news, plus my eyes, plus regular life, right to the brim. So my head wasn't absorbing shit. So I'm hoping now that I've got Botox, and as that starts to work its way, and typically it takes about 10 days to fully activate. I'm hoping mine goes sooner. That will help this process. But if not, it might be there forever. The thing I have to watch out for is a bunch of new floaters happening, that curtain thing especially, but most importantly is that bright shooting light, the flash of light, if they call that. He said, even if you get a burst of light, you see it and you're in a dark room, it's not as emergent because sometimes it's the way that your eye is trying to adjust to seeing something. But if you see bursts of light and you're in a bright room, then you need to get to the doctor's office. So I asked the question, what happens if this happens in the middle of the night? He says, be here when it opens. Don't call, don't do anything, just show up. Because that means that my retina might be detaching. Yes, let's pause. It was Botox day, so I go out for coffee. And Pizza Hut, as it was. Those were my rewards. Thankfully still open. So, while my brain logically knows that what he's saying is fantastic news, maybe the best news I could have gotten at this point, I'm trying to receive it, I'm trying to hear it and process it, but all I can think is, now I have to be more vigilant. He confirms that it's nothing I did, nothing else is wrong with me that brought this on, that it's just a part of life in this surgery. And ever since that day, about 5 days ago, I've been sort of on this like Ferris wheel of anxiety and fear and just, I don't know. The thing is that I've learned, which is a good thing, that, you know, when you close your eyes super tight and you squeeze them, or you look in the sun, you see like those dots, like dust kind of. That's not what I experienced. That's not retina stuff. That's just eye stuff. And now I've learned the difference between when my head is annoyed and it affects my eyes versus whatever this was, actual eye problems and cataract seeing. You know, because this had been such a slow, gradual process of the cataracts building, I always used to blame it on my head because that was my experience, right? My migraine brain gets upset and affects my eyes. It still does, but now I can tell the difference because I have good vision. And that's important and reassuring. But every time I think I see a floater or I think something is wrong with my eyes, or I'm in the shower and the way that the bathroom window, or like the light just comes in so bright. Anytime I see anything that feels like it's going to be different, intellectually, I know that it's probably not that, but my soul is just upset. Now, the interesting thing is, between my eye surgeries, I went through a real big depression and fear and stuff like that. And once my second eye was done and the blurriness had healed from that surgery, and I feel like I had like about 2 weeks of like free living my best life, that even though we were in this pandemic and it was scary and the world was changing, I wasn't allowed to leave my house for like anything but essentials, I was really happy. And I feel like this put a damper on that. I feel like I had given myself, before I had surgery, this deadline of April being the beginning of my new chapter. That I wasn't going to have to think about my eyes, talk about my eyes, or worry about them. You know, the surgeries would be over, the healing would mostly be over. I've done with all my drops, and that's super exciting. And I am driving, and I'm reading, and I'm living, and so, like with other things in life, I didn't know this was going to happen. And I feel like for the last almost 2 years that I found out that I had to have cataract surgery, that all I've been thinking about is my eyes, that they've occupied so much of my heart and soul and life, and I hate it. And I feel like knowing this about me means that that's not going to ever end. You know, and while anything can happen to anybody at any time, I know that. Get hit by a car, right? Go outside. But you don't think about it because it hasn't yet happened to you, right? Once something sets a precedent, like once I had that first migraine that couldn't break, and I knew that was possible, every time I ever got any pain in my head, I was panicked and terrified. And my doctor always tried to tell me not to live in the fear of what if. We'll get to it when we get to it. But once you have a precedent, it's there. You're thinking about those things, not the things that may happen to you someday, right? And so I tried to hear my surgeon's voice in my head. I tried to really think logically through about it. If it was starting to detach, if the veins around it was starting to detach, they would have told me. I live for my neurologist. She's my Buddha. She's my everything. And while I trust the eye doctor implicitly, when I saw her today, I hadn't seen her since my eye surgery, so we were talking, and she usually makes me feel good about what I'm stressed out about. And I was telling her about this problem. She's like, "Oh, damn, I'm sorry to hear it." And now, while she's a neurologist, she's also a doctor, and that vein that surrounds the retina where this gel is has some long name, starts with a V. She says the word to me immediately, and I say, "Yeah, that's the word I can never remember. I still can't remember. I don't care." And she says, "Was that torn in the eye exam?" I said, "No." He said, "Nothing was torn, just that gel." And she said, "If that nerve, which is right around the retina, had been torn, then there was an infinitely higher percentage that my retina has a likelihood of tearing, which would be bad, obviously." Although I know that from experience, when I know my mother is in her early 60s, that her retina is slightly torn, but it's remained stable. It doesn't have to tear all the way. You only get surgery if it tears all the way. And so that gave me a little bit of more peace of mind. Like, okay, it really is intact. I go back to the eye doctor in 2 months. They'll do another retina exam and regular post-op. Regular post-op was supposed to take place at that time again anyway. And then allegedly just your yearly vision eye checks, whatever. While I despise the thought of going through that process again, I know it's necessary and I'm going to, of course, do it. But now I feel like they should have checked the left eye just in case, but I'm being paranoid. I'm just trying to... the next day I let myself really wallow in it. I let myself really feel the fear and the anxiety, and I didn't really get too emotional about it outside. But besides feeling sad and fearful, I'm angry. I am still angry that I had to have the surgery, and I'm still... This is an interesting thing, is that I'm still not mad that I chose to have the surgery, because it was still a choice, right? It's still considered elective surgery. And that's what I'm really having the problem with. Like, I chose to have the surgery, though I had zero quality of life before it, and it would have just gotten worse. I was already practically legally blind after that, then what, right? So it was, everybody around me, and the doctors included, are sort of just saying, like, you needed the surgery. If this is what has to happen afterwards, if this is a side effect, then that's what it is, and you just have to do it. You have to deal with it. It's like any other major surgery. And that's why I used to hate when people, like, even though I didn't know about this part, like, when I would be upset about having to have cataracts, they're like, don't worry about it. Everybody does it. But see, it's still major surgery. Now, just because you're not staying overnight in hospital, and they're not cutting into my chest, and they're not amputating my leg, it's my eyes. And because things like this can happen whether you know it or not, it is serious. And all the things that I felt leading up to my surgery were valid. And I feel validated in an odd way, because I knew that I was right to be this upset. And while I didn't need something additional happening to me to know that, I just feel like we need to stop minimalizing things because everybody does it. Everybody gives birth also, and you could die doing that too. And it's still major, and it's still important. And I guess that's what I want to really say. I know that the surgery wasn't elective for me. It was a necessity. The same way that Botox is a medical necessity. And that's why my doctor was kind enough to go to the office for me to do this. Even though we took all the precautions that we needed to. She knew that for me, I would end up in the ER with a migraine. And that's not a place that anybody needs to be unnecessarily. Ever. Especially now. She wasn't doing anybody's first time Botox, but because for me, it is quite literally the only thing that blocks my head. I'm not on preventative medication. I've taken pain pills, and anti-inflammatories all week. I was very, very sick this past Saturday. Sicker than I've been in years. Excuse me. It was like 12-hour long I wasn't vomiting, but nausea and the tingling and all kinds of things I haven't felt in a long time. I was just really, really super sick. And I don't want to be that ever again. And so this is medically necessary. And so was the cataract surgery. The positive thing I wanted to end on when also convincing myself that it was necessary is that Thursday and even today, while it was hurricaning out and all sorts of fogginess and blurriness and the wind, I could see clearly. I drove with my eyes dilated. They had subsided by that point. But I could see clear. And it's a gift. I wore a raincoat today that I've worn countless times over the last year since I bought it. And noticed today in the bathroom at the neurologist's office that there were those things in the strings that you could pull to tighten it. I'd never seen those before. Every day I am finding new things that I haven't seen or forgot that I couldn't see. And every time I'm excited about it. Whether it's dirt, whether it's a gray hair, whether it's reading the New York Times. Whether it's driving through Starbucks with a rubber glove on my hand and wiping my phone down when I get home. It's all of those things. And so I'm getting a little bit more at peace with the fact that it was medically necessary. I knew it. But I still have a lot of anxiety about worrying about my eye, and I think that will take some time for it to pass. You know, it's still super new. So it's just another chapter. It's another layer. And I know that I can do it. I know that I can, even though my voice is shaking now in my soul, I feel super strong and super confident. And when I was sitting in the eye doctor's office by myself, I knew that I could do whatever I had to. So there's that extra layer of confidence that going through the eye surgeries has given me. I don't ever want to have to do eye surgery of any kind ever again, and I pray to God that I don't have to. But I have to try not to focus on it. I have to just be honest and open, pay attention to what's happening. You know, at first I sort of wanted to just sleep outside the doctor's office, right? Like and floaters and flashes of light, you still see when you close your eyes. So there was no escaping it. And that's a lot of the problem that I had when I first opened my eyes after that first eye surgery, right? The vision difference, all of that stuff. So it's a little triggering again. But now I see it, but it's not the same thing when I open my eyes. I sort of forget, and then I look and I say, oh, he's there. It goes away, it comes and goes, it's getting lighter. Nothing is different. Trying to just be calm and pragmatic and do what I have to do. And try not to let it steal any other moments of my day or my life right now. Trying to live in the present and not in the what ifs. The what ifs. We could all make ourselves that crazy, right? And so I'm normally a very level-headed person and good under pressure, and I'm choosing to try to stay in that mindset. I know that it's going to come back and forth. Like on the way to Botox, I just had such anxiety. But now that it's in and I got that and I know how important that is for me, I know how important that is for my head to adjust to things that will come about, whether it's my eyes or whatever. So I'm just trying to take a deep breath. And in this moment, I'm calm, I'm collected, I'm positive. And whenever I feel anxious, I'm just going to power through it. So that is the latest with my eyes. I hope that we never really have to have this conversation again. But I'm excited. And I've decided today's the day I'm going to start blogging. Well, it's Botox day. So if I don't write today, I give myself a pass. But starting tomorrow, I'm going to go back to doing my blog and publishing and lots of good things to literally look forward to. So I hope everyone is staying safe and entertained and calm and positive and fighting through the anxiety of all of our lives. Until next time, guys.